Okay, we're back from closed session, and there's no reportable action, so we'll move right into the study session.
The study session item is receive direction regarding short-term rental regulations.
Short-term rentals, STRs as I'll refer to them during the presentation. So let's get started. We're going to talk about short-term rentals, the industry trends in short-term rentals, and what's happening here in Citrus Heights. We'll present and discuss some options, go over some common regulations, and look for direction or input from you on some possible next steps.
Allison, I don't think we can all see your screen. Sorry, dear.
Oh, sorry. Let's share here. Thank you for that. All righty. So what is a short-term rental or an STR? It's referring to a property, a furnished unit, a dwelling, could be a bedroom, that's rented out for a period of time to a non-occupant, and it is considered for a rental for less than 30 days. So we're talking about rentals of a unit or a bedroom for a short period of time, less than 30 days. Typically used, I think we've all used Airbnb or a similar provider. They're used generally for vacation or pleasure travel, but many business industries also use them for their employees. A lot of traveling nurses and other industries like that do take advantage and use short-term rentals. We're familiar with Airbnb, which is probably the most common platform, but as the platform industry has increased, there's several different entities available now that are all involved in the short-term rental market. So short-term rentals, this is industry-wide information. So this is not specific to Citrus Heights, but it's what the industry is now seeing. They've seen an increase in the number of listings since 2001, 15 times the number. So increasingly numbers are continuing to grow. There's 27 global markets that short-term rentals have outperformed hotel rentals. There, as I mentioned, there's hundreds of platforms now that present some tracking challenges as far as jurisdictions knowing what short-term rentals exist, but there are now hundreds of platforms. And along with the increase in rentals, the industry has seen a 239% increase in short-term rentals and complaints of parties and large gatherings that have caused impact on the community. So as the number of rentals have increased, also the number of complaints, as you would expect, to go up as well. This is specific to Citrus Heights. So the growth of the number of rentals has grown just since last year at 24%. We've gathered these numbers from a third-party provider who tracks this industry. And so they have our data, and they said last year, you had just under 60 rentals. This year, you're up to over 70, so a 24% increase. And some of you may remember a few years ago, we talked about this, and it was probably 2011, 12, and we had 5 or 6. So it was a very nominal number, but now you can see that number is growing and continues to grow. Here's a map, and these are not exact locations as the data is not readily available to find the specific addresses. But through the technology, through these providers, we're able to get an idea of where rentals do exist. So looking at Citrus Heights, these dots, the purple being a full home, a complete home listed for market, and then the other dots are rooms or portions or some other format of a rental unit. So you can see it's quite impressive, the number of units. According to the data we were able to gather from the third-party provider, the median nightly rate for rentals in Citrus Heights has been about $118. Most of our rentals, over 90% or so, are single-family units. About 10% are a multifamily unit or something, a small portion, either a bedroom or some other type of facility. And most of our rentals, according to this, you can see are from the Airbnb booking line is where they're advertised the most. But Expedia, TripAdvisor, other ones also do have a share of the pie of what is available in Citrus Heights. So tonight we want to talk about short-term rentals. The city of Citrus Heights, currently we do not have any specific regulations to short-term rentals. If you own a home, you're able to use it as a short-term rental. Whether you live there, you don't live there, you can short-term rental out a bedroom or the entire home without any current regulation. As expected, due to the number of increase in short-term rentals in the city, the police department, who is here with me tonight too, should you have any specific questions, they have received a number of calls, an increase in the number of calls for service to disturbances, and then come to find out through their investigations that unit is being used as a short-term rental. And since we have shown that there is a continued popularity in the number of rentals and is continuing to increase, we wanted to just present this data to you and talk to you and find out if there's an interest in any type of regulation of these units. There are some different options that we can talk through and get your feedback. Going with 3 different options or some form of these 3. We could continue as we are today, allow short-term rentals to continue. Basically, they're treated as a unit. Should there be activity reported through noise, parking, garbage, whatever they might be or have been in the past, they would just be handled through calls for service to the police department or code enforcement. And that is how we can do today, and we continue that. Additional option would be if we wanted to continue forward, no specific regulations to short-term rentals. And we can talk later about what those regulations may or may not be, but require some sort of registration or license that they file with us so we can gather the information needed. One, to learn where these units are. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have specific address listing, as that's not, information is not available. You do have to purchase that from an outside vendor, as VRBO or Airbnb will not share you the specific address. So we could require people using their facility, their home, as one of these units to register, or license or some permit. So we do know exactly where these units are. That also would provide us information to collect the TOT tax that we're due, as they should be submitting TOT. And option 3 would be we could do a more comprehensive program. We could establish regulations and a registration or permit process that would allow us to work with the property owner, outline what their restrictions are. Is there a limit on the number of guests? Is there a minimum number of nights? Is there a visitor hour restriction? And this would really help that property owner put that information out there. So when he rents to his to any clients, they're familiar with the rules and of our community. That, in addition, would help with the collection of TOT, as we would have an identified address of where these units are. So let's talk about the different options. So option 1, as I said, is just kind of remain status quo, handle any situations that come up as we do today, and that's on a case-by-case basis. If we like to go with something like require registration or some sort of permit, business license, something rather simple, there are some advantages and disadvantages. As I mentioned, the advantages are we would know the location of the short-term rental. It would identify to us when that location, so we could monitor and collect our TOT. And then it would also provide some sort of ability for us to revoke a permit or the registration should they become a troubled property. One of the drawbacks with this I mentioned is we have to purchase the data to get the specific addresses so we can make contact with those property owners and initiate the registration process. It does not guarantee the elimination of party houses or any neighborhood impacts, as it would just be a registration process to know where these units are and would not establish any operating conditions. So it does make it a little bit more challenging for code enforcement, as everything would be handled through just the typical complaint process. Option 3, the more comprehensive update. It would have an advantage as it would help minimize any public safety risks, as we would have more outline as far as enforcement and operational procedures for the short-term rental. It would help establish a chain of communication between the city and the operator and the renter. Again, identifies the location of the units for the collection of the lost TOT. It does would put out some sort of regulation or outline for the revocation of a permit. And it would help protect our neighborhoods from and our housing stock out there. Should someone just choose not to want to follow our registrations, maybe they don't want to continue using their home as a short-term rental because of any rules or regulations. So it would, in some regards, help protect the housing stock. It does come with its disadvantages as well. Again, we would have to purchase the data to start a program, so we would be able to contact the owners. Any regulation, as you know, comes at a cost of staff time and enforcement. And having a process for registration, it really does not guarantee the elimination of the party houses. As we know, there are many people and most people that would follow the rules, register their rental and comply. But there are those facilities that would still continue to operate outside the guidelines and not register their property. We did extensive research with the help of police department on this and found that there are several jurisdictions nearby that do have regulations. So Sacramento County, City of Sacramento, Rockland, Roseville, all have regulations pertaining to short-term rentals. Folsom and Rancho Cordova do not. And just to give you an idea of the type of topics that are regulated that intended to help with the regulation of these units, there's a licensing requirement or permit requirement. As you can see, the ones that do have regulations do require that. They all require the payment of TOT. The owner occupancy is one that kind of is almost a split, and that would refer to that the unit must be occupied by the owner for a certain period of time. So that's either in the reference of the county or Roseville, the owner must live there at least 6 months of the year. So they could use it as a short-term rental while they're gone 6 months or for a collection of time over 6 months. Other jurisdictions do not have that requirement, so you can rent your home out anytime, or you don't even have to live there. You can own it strictly for the use of a short-term rental and rent it out all year long. Some jurisdictions have a maximum number of days that it can be used, from 90 days to 182 days, versus some have no limit. The maximum number of guests, that is one that most use as a deterrent from these party houses that have been somewhat of the issue in a lot of communities in the state. So they have a limit on number of adults or number of persons in the unit or per bedroom. There's a notification requirement with some where you would notify neighbors within, in this case, 200 feet. The minimum stay is another one that has helped to deter that. So the 2-day minimum stay is intended to curb people renting the unit for one night for a big party and then be gone. And some are using this third-party administrator to help with the program. As I mentioned a couple times, the data, getting the data specific to short-term rentals is somewhat of a challenge. So you almost need this third-party administrator. Some are using it just to purchase the data and then implement their program. And versus there are some administrators that will actually monitor it for you. That includes maybe provide an 800 number, 24 hours, where a neighbor could call and complain if they were having an issue. So there's a wide variety of options using the third-party administrator. And should you give direction for regulations, there's no good regulations without, some good policy objectives. And so considerations of those would be things like, the regulation is really intended to provide our homeowners, our community with an option to generate extra income, but also have a protection of our housing stock. We want to minimize public safety risks in regard to noise, trash, parking issues. Those are the biggest ones that have come up with short-term rentals in neighborhoods. We do want to ensure that we're not losing out on any tax revenue that we're due, and that would be the TOT tax. Would be interested in adopting a program should we do that's really enforceable, it's simple, and it is self-funding, meaning that any fees we collect would be used just to fund the program. And then adopt this registration and permit process, that's simple and viable for not only city staff, but for the owner. So that's kind of the highlight of why we're here, what's been happening in the industry and in the city. So welcome your feedback, and depending on your selection or what you'd like to do, I do have other questions, but we'll start with just some initial questions or comments right now.
Thank you, Allison. Any questions or comments? Jeannie?
Thank you, Ally, for that work and that report. I've got several questions. Having used VRBO myself in some travels, it's really a nice option to hotels. But so my first question is, how big is the problem for our police department as it exists today?
A good question. Sergeant, I think you're on. Would you like to cover that?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I'm Seth Semino. I'm a sergeant with the police department. I have the privilege of leading our special operations unit, which consists of our problem-oriented policing team, homeless navigator, code enforcement, and animal services. In specific relation to your question, we have had some issues and some concerns year to date. We've had 11 specific calls. I would say 4 of those we would highlight as public safety concerns. On some of these occasions, known gang members and weapons violation arrests were made at these locations. Very, very large parties where the police department had to disperse the persons that were there. On one of the occasions we had, well, actually 2 occasions we had people flee from us at the time. So there is some public safety concern in relation to that.
Okay. Do you see it as a growing problem?
Yes. Seeing these initial contacts and these concerns, we reached out to our law enforcement regional partners and asked them specifically in regards to it. We saw it as a new trend here in the city of Citrus Heights, but one that potentially could pose a public safety concern. Our law enforcement partners indicated that left unregulated, they did see an increase in calls for service to their short-term rentals, specifically noise complaints, parking issues, large parties, short stay traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, just real quick
Go
before
ahead,
you walk
Brett.
away. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. you said we've responded to 11 of these calls?
We've
11 of these units?
Yeah, through our data, we've had 11 calls for service year to date, yes.
And do you know, have they been repeat offenders on some of those calls?
We have had an address that is a repeat, yes, sir.
So we have a problem child.
There is a house that has been a repeat, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
How does that compare to years past, Officer or Sergeant?
It's an increase. I apologize. I don't have, we saw the increase of 24%. I can't tell you what it looked like in 2020 or 19.
Okay.
But we have had 11 so far this year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's my
Don't go too far, but
police-related question. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so my next question is, what is the rate for the TOT tax?
It's a 12% rate.
12%, okay. And then we have that in place already for our,
That is in place already. And
Okay.
so currently, we do have a 12% TOT tax. It is part of our municipal code. We have the one hotel that we have does remit that monthly. Short-term rentals would be classified under that TOT definition as a hotel in our code. And right now, it would be just up to the operator on their own to submit that requirement. But we don't have any that are doing that.
okay, do we have a mechanism basically what I'm hearing you say, Allison, is that the tax is in place, they're supposed to pay it, but they're not.
Correct.
Okay, so,
And we don't have, our difficulty is we don't know where these units are. We only, as a map I showed, those are general areas according to data collected from the service providers. But we don't know the specific addresses to do that outreach.
so do they
So
have,
any
okay,
property owner sending it in, which they're not, would be doing it of their own.
okay, so are they required, if they sign up with Airbnb or one of the other platforms, are they required to, well, of course, they have to have their address, but is Airbnb, I thought I heard somewhere along the way that they were going to be collecting TOT and then passing it on to the municipalities. Is that not in place?
They do have jurisdictions that they do that for. They have worked that out with specific jurisdictions. I think they do that for the city of Sacramento. When you look at their list of jurisdictions, they're rather large. Their counties are very large cities.
Yeah,
So it is something you'd have to work out with those specific vendors. But there are, even though Airbnb is our largest vendor, there are other carriers or other providers that we wouldn't have that arrangement with. From what I understand, I think police department talked to a couple jurisdictions who, I think in the city of Sac, who are on that TOT revenue where Airbnb collects it and remits it. The difficulty is Airbnb will collect that required TOT tax and forward it on to the jurisdiction, but they do just send you a check. So you don't really know which
yeah, there's no accounting.
unit those are coming from, where they're coming from, and so forth. So there are some challenges to that as well.
okay,
And according to the data we got, just real quickly, if you take the median nightly rate that we had and the number of nights, assuming this 20% occupancy rate, which is what the vendor we talked to uses as a general assumption for our area, you can see that we would expect, it could be more or less, but about $74,000 a year in TOT tax. That is due to us now, we're just not receiving it.
okay. Then what, you referred to the cost to purchase the data to find out where the exact addresses are that are already involved in this short-term rental. What would that cost be?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Casey, there's several different levels that you can purchase. One being they could just give us the data and it would be static. You're not really tied in to getting any updates. But you could, for that would be for a couple $1,000s versus some of the jurisdictions that are using the full implementation of this party as administrator. So the permit or the license is filed with them, it's issued by them, and then they also act as a support person to receive complaint phone calls. They have an 800 number that anyone can call 24 hours a day, and they have contact with the property owner who has agreed to be within a 30-minute or 1 hour window to respond to any calls. So there is a variety of functions that can go from a couple $1,000s one time to maybe an annual cost of $20,000 or so. Does that sound right, Casey?
Yes, that's the ballpark. It's probably between 5 and 20,000, depending on what options you choose.
Okay.
So obviously, any process we developed would have to, recoup those costs. But you can see from the estimated TOT tax, we would be covering that.
Those are my initial questions. Thank you.
I had, could you back up to the surrounding jurisdictions on the slides? Oh, there we go. One more to what they actually do. There you go, thank you. My concern, I definitely believe we need something in place before something really bad happens. And I'm just reminded of the incident in Orinda a year or two ago where, it was all underage and there was a shooting and I think it was multiple folks were murdered. And, if that happened here and we did nothing, I think we'd have a lot of questions to answer. I like the fact that the county and Roseville really align with what I was thinking because they're the only two organizations, agencies that touch on our borders and it would be consistent. So I like that. I just wanted to throw that in there. I think with this TOT, this isn't a battle we should fight. I think the legislature needs to step in. Maybe we need to elevate this to the League of Cities and because I'm sure everybody's losing out and they're required by law. So this, I didn't know, I forgot we had one hotel and so we actually do have a TOT tax. But yeah, I like the maximum guests. The one thing I throw in there maybe on the minimum stay is 3 days on holidays. I see that with resorts and places we go that you're not booking a holiday for one night, you got to do it for 3 nights. I don't know if that's doable with these folks, but yeah, if they're not operating legally and doing the accounting for the taxes, I can't believe they just send us a check and it's not itemized or anything like that. That just doesn't sound right. That needs to be corrected somehow, but I don't think that's something we
Well,
can
that's
do.
what Airbnb does, not the county.
Right. Did I say county? I meant Airbnb just sends a check for,
Yeah.
and that just doesn't make sense.
Trust me.
I trust.
It's the right amount of money, trust me. This is, never mind.
Oh, yeah. Trust me.
So Mayor, I have a,
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
so, thanks very much, Allison, appreciate it. It sounds to me like we're kind of, the folks that we're looking at are the Airbnb and VRBO. While you're talking here, I went ahead and put in Craigslist and searched for short-term rentals here. And nothing came up for Citrus Heights, but 21 properties came up for Sacramento. So certainly, these Craigslist postings would certainly get around this issue. I don't know how we would track folks that aren't registered with a service like VRBO or Airbnb. Is there is there any way that we can write a provision for that we, if there's a disturbance, some kind of issue with the police department when they go and they find that this is a short-term rental, this is a party rental type of situation that's not registered through one of those services, it just seems like I don't know how we write that into making this across the board as covered as much as we
Well,
could.
they don't have, I mean, you can do a short-term rental on your own and not register and advertise through these other means, smaller platforms or online. They still would be obligated, and the code could be specific to that, the use of a short-term rental at your property would require the registration or permit as it's developed or how it comes forth to be registered or have, be approved through our process, whether it's just a ministerial license or it's the acceptance of these operating conditions, whatever we choose. But it would be a requirement. And then if they're not, that would be through the enforcement actions and our partnership with the police department on notifying those should we discover that there is one happening.
So I have a question for Sergeant Semino. Of these 11 properties, these 11 calls that we had, were all of them through VRBO or some kind of registered service, or was it just kind of independent? Did you find any that were independent, or how did that break down?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question specifically. Upon arrival at the scene, we discovered that it was an Airbnb, but I can't specifically say what company or group it was associated with. Sorry, sir, but I can look into that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, for Allison, I think to start, you had a graph that indicated there was a 239% increase, but that was not obviously Citrus Heights. That's a
Correct.
A
That was
profession
industry-wide.
type
Yeah.
of number,
Yes.
and then we got an actual number from PD, and basically we're looking at 11 calls over a time frame of, we go to about 75,000 calls in the annual year through the PD. There are 72 rental properties in Citrus Heights, where there are also 15,000 rental units in Citrus Heights. So I'm very concerned that I feel like we're a solution looking for a problem, and this has been a problem in other areas. There's no doubt about it. There's been some, pretty serious stories, but I just don't know that if Citrus Heights is the community where people say, "Hey, let's have a party and let's go to Citrus Heights." I just don't think it happens that much, and I think there is a mechanism already in place that. And it sounds like it needs to maybe be explored already for, if I'm understanding PD correctly, there's already a problem child, and that's a nuisance lawsuit type of situation. So there is a remedy for going after a property owner who's allowing these kind of things to occur on their property. And I'm concerned because I think this also could be a tool that some people use to on one side, be able to even stay in their homes. And so they rent them out on the short-term basis so that they can collect money and be able to stay in their homes. And when you start adding fees onto it and taxes onto it, it can really make a difference. I stay in hotels usually about twice a week, and I take my time to scour them so I can save some money. And when you talk about a 12% occupancy tax or transit tax, on a $100 room for the night, you're talking another $12. And it may not sound like a lot of money, but I'm sure there's also other folks out there who have already maybe are experiencing homelessness and look for some ways to get relief from that at least a few times a week, and maybe they're able to put together the funds, and they can't stay in one of these places all the time, but they get to stay in them maybe 3 or 4 times a week. So I think we should be careful, because we are challenged more and more and more with affordable housing, and we're challenged more and more and more with what's keeping people out of housing and on the streets, and we can't ignore that that's cost too. And so I don't see a problem yet. I don't want to necessarily say that we need to wait till we have a serious problem, but I don't even see a problem based on the numbers. 11 calls with at least one property accounting for several of those calls, compared to 75,000 other calls. It seems like our energy might be better spent focusing somewhere else. It just seems like we're a solution looking for a problem.
Anything else?
I don't, first of all, I don't think people that have their homes used as Airbnb are looking to rent to homeless people. I just don't think those things
Well, how do you know
mesh
if it's a
together.
homeless person?
Excuse me?
How do you know if it's a homeless person? Not everybody
Well,
homeless is, you know,
well, I, actually, let me just.
wigged out.
Let me finish my thought. Because people that rent homes out generally do a credit check or a background check. I have friends that have a home in Auburn that have done this for a long time. And so in two of the cities have third-party administrators. That'd be part of their function, would be to qualify people coming in for creditworthiness, background checks, or whatever. But even having said that, I look at this as, I think the other points that you made, Brett, were pretty valid. That some people do this because they need to supplement their income, to some degree. But I think in most part, it's a business, and I think at least they should have a business license, and at least they should pay a TOT. Beyond that, and I don't support putting down qualifications for minimum stays. That's up to them. If they, most people that rent for a long weekend are going to rent it for the whole weekend. They're not going to, because they have to clean in between each person that comes in and leaves, and they're not going to rent a house for one night, come in and clean it the next morning, rent it again. They're going to set their own criteria for holiday weekends or just weekend stay as a general practice. So I would support a business license because I have a business license to operate out of my home. And I think anybody who operates a business in Citrus Heights should have a business license. I support the TOT tax because they are operating as a hospitality place to stay, like a hotel or motel does. And I would also, because these homes are in residential neighborhoods, and the ones that I've stayed in are completely nondescript. You wouldn't know that they were not someone's home, living there. They're just kind of in the middle of a neighborhood. I've been in ones that are in towns in Central California where you wouldn't even think someone would offer an Airbnb type setup. But I do think maximum number of guests would also be a reasonable policy to have. Beyond that, I think that we handle it as a call for service like we would anything else. That's kind of where I am. I'm not for a full-blown, let's put a whole huge policy in place and make all these requirements. Because, as you said, Ally, in several of your examples, there are going to be people out there that do this that we're not going to catch, and they're never going to pay the tax. They're never going to get a license. It's really an enforcement issue. As Sergeant Semino said, you go out there, you learn about it, then we go and we notify the owner of the property that they're in violation, and we do the things that we need to do to get them in compliance. Have a mechanism in place where if you want to use your home for this purpose, then go to the city, get a license so that we know it's there, and pay your tax. Just like I pay income tax on my business that I generate from my work, TOT tax is their contribution to the city for whatever else has to be supported because they have a business there. Those are my thoughts. So I see three things to me that seem reasonable: a license, TOT, and the maximum number of guests that can stay, so you don't have 14 people, camping out in a two-bedroom house.
Sounds reasonable.
Those are my thoughts.
And if I could just comment further, I certainly support Jeannie's suggestion here. I do think that while I don't think that this reaches the level of putting an ordinance in place, I do think that the simpler requirements that Jeannie stated are reasonable. They do give our city staff and law enforcement the ability to action on these properties. So I would certainly support something along the lines of just 3 minimum requirements: being licensed, maximum number of guests.
Just another thought, too, is and thank you for that, Tim. I advocate that we start with baby steps, instead
That's a
of
good
going
point.
from 0 to 100, and as Brett said, giving a solution to something that may not even be a problem. So let's be moderate, let's be minimalistic, let's do something that makes sense for us. I don't think we need to invest money in databases at this point, particularly if it could be up to $20,000 a year, because we're looking at potential TOT tax, but honestly, it'll probably come in much less than that for a long time, because it's a gear-up kind of program, I
Right,
think.
right.
So those are my thoughts.
And then I'll go back to what I said, the whole TOT thing, I think, is something that needs to be elevated to the legislature.
Okay.
That's just my opinion, and that's totally separate from this. That's not part of anything. So I think that's well measured, Jeannie. I think you found a compromise. Any other comments? Do we have any raised hands? Anybody want to comment? We have a few minutes, about 5 minutes before I think we need to recess, get ready for our next regular meeting.
I do not have any, no.
Okay. Well, there's more to the presentation, Allison?
No, that's it. I think you gave great feedback. I appreciate the feedback, and that's enough for us to move forward in a minimal way, just to kind of take this, and you'll see something in the future.
Okay, and yeah, if it becomes a problem and there's a solution that works for our PD and for a planning department, we're all ears.
Got it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for your work, Allison.
Thank you. We're going to take a short recess and we'll be back for our regular meeting. Good evening and welcome to the September 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And with that, I'd ask Councilmember Bruins to lead us in the flag salute, please.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And with that, we're ready for the roll call.
Councilmember Bruins,
Present.
Councilmember Daniels,
Here?
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Present.
and Mayor Miller.
Here.
This meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at citrusheights.net. Tonight's meeting replay is on Monday, September 13th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14, and this meeting can also be viewed on the city's YouTube channel.
Thank you, Amy. And I did want to report that we had no reportable action out of closed session earlier this evening. And with that, is there any changes to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval?
Second?
Motion by Bruin, seconded by Daniels. And we could just do, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda's approved. Next item.
Our next item is presentation number 4, a proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights in recognition of Alfred Sanchez.
Thank you, and I've asked Councilmember Tim Schaefer to present this to Alfred.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's my pleasure. Alfred, if you would come forward. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
So
Well,
Alfred,
since I've been in here.
yeah, welcome back. And this is a proclamation, recognize your service. And I just am going to start out by reading the City of Citrus Heights recognizing Alfred Sanchez for his service to the Citrus Heights homeless community. Whereas Alfred Sanchez made his mission 4 years ago to take snacks to the local homeless, thus earning the name Snack Man. Whereas Alfred uses snacks, socks, and compassionate pressure to influence the members of the homeless community and has taken the initiative to help negotiate and resolve complaints and issues. And Alfred goes out 6 days a week visiting homeless in Citrus Heights. He attends homeless resource team Heart meetings and volunteers several Hearts functions. And Alfred has worked with the Citrus Heights homeless community and the Citrus Heights Police Department to reduce vandalism occurring at the Sylvan Oaks Library. He also worked with the Sunrise Recreation and Parks District to help mitigate homeless issues there. Whereas Alfred's commitment to his community involves a long history of volunteering in various boards such as the Neighborhood Area 4, Residents Empowerment Association of Citrus Heights, and the Construction Board of Appeals. Whereas Alfred embodies his motto, love everyone. Now, therefore, it may be resolved that the City Council of Citrus Heights does hereby recognize Alfred Sanchez for his outstanding dedication and commitment to homeless in the community of Citrus Heights. In witness thereof, we have set forth our hand and seal on the 9th day of September 2021, signed Mayor Steve Miller. Can I go down and present this to him?
And I think normally we'd all go down there, but let's limit our exposure.
Should I say something?
Yeah, well, Tim's walking down there. Alfred, please.
I just want to say that I appreciate the recognition, and I didn't write anything down, and normally I do, but this time I just decided I wanted to say what came to mind, and it's hard out there. And I know you all know that, and I did a sock drive for my birthday, and people from the city came and brought socks and stuff, and I love what I do, but the reason I have to do it is just, it's kind of sad, you know, and it's like a lot of times like, oh, I'm Snack Man, and it seems like it's like really great. I'm going around giving out snacks, but a lot of times what people don't see is the things that are really sad. So I thank you very much. I will continue to do my best to represent the homeless people, as well as try and bring the city together and say, look, you know, this is everybody's home. But I thank you very much. I love you guys.
Thank you, Alfred. And you know, it is sad, but you bring light to the darkness, and that's why we're recognizing you tonight.
Many times it's just listening to people.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as just listening to people. I got a lot of time on my hands, and sometimes I'll be sitting there, it's like, wow, I've been sitting here listening to this guy for 30 minutes, but sometimes they don't have anybody else that will listen to them. And then I learn a lot from them, and I talk to them and cuddle them and give them some tough love and just be myself. And you guys all know me. You know I'm community oriented. I just try and help people.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've known Alfred for about 15 to 20 years, maybe somewhere in that ballpark.
20.
And, if a tenth of the people cared half as much as you do about your community, whether that's political, whether that's the homeless, whether that's the parks, I couldn't imagine what a glorious world we would have, Alfred. You're truly a hero.
Just like I said, just try and love everybody, just everybody. What the heck, right?
Thank you, Alfred, for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alfred. We really appreciate your efforts, and you are truly a beacon of hope in our community.
It's just, all just, we all have to live here. And that's what I try and tell everybody out there. It's like, look, this is where you are and this is where we are and we're all here. So let's all just try and do our best to get along.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred.
Woo-hoo.
Good job, Alfred.
All right. Next item, please, Amy.
Next item is presentation number 5, proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights proclaiming September as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And it does not appear that Representative Barbara Nicholson with the California Prostate Cancer Coalition could join us tonight, but we will make sure to
Okay, well, I'll read the proclamation, and I'll give this back to you so you can send it to her. This one in particular hits close to home for me. I'm a bladder cancer survivor, and I know full well the advantage of finding out with early detection. So let me read the proclamation. Whereas prostate cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer in men and the second leading cause of cancer deaths in men, and the American Cancer Society estimates there will be 248,000 plus new cases of prostate cancer in 2021 alone, resulting in an estimated close to 35,000 deaths. It's estimated that 26,000 men in California will be diagnosed with prostate cancer this year, and it's estimated that close to 4,000 California men will die from this disease this year. The incidence of prostate cancer is almost 80% higher in non-Hispanic black men than in non-Hispanic white men, for reasons that remain unclear to doctors. And this early-stage prostate cancer usually has no symptoms, and studies suggest strong genetic disposition may be responsible for about 5 to 10% of this cancer. And late-stage prostate cancer commonly spreads to the bones, which then cause pain in the hips, spine, ribs, and other areas of the body. And whereas the 5-year survival rate approaches 100% when prostate cancer is diagnosed and treated early, it drops to 30% when it spreads to other parts of the body. So these risk factors for prostate cancer are increasing in African ancestry with a family history of the disease and certain inherited genetic conditions. The American Cancer Society recommends that men have a conversation with their health care provider and make an informed decision about whether to be tested for prostate cancer based on their values and preferences. Therefore, the City Council joins communities across our nation to increase awareness about the importance for men to make an informed decision with their health care provider about early detection and testing for prostate cancer. So now be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Citrus Heights does hereby designate September 2021 Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And I've set my hand and seal on this proclamation, and as witnessed by our city clerk. Thank you. Any comments? Okay. So that proclamation's done. Do we have another one?
No, no, we don't, that is it for tonight.
Okay, so next item.
Next item is presentation number 6, and it is SAC-RT Short Range Transit Plan, SAC-RT on the Move. And Sarah Poe with SAC-RT will start the presentation.
Good evening, council members. My name is Sarah Poe, and I am from Sacramento Regional Transit District in the Planning Department. I'm here to talk about the SAC-RT's Short Range Transit Plan. I wanted to share with you all that SAC-RT, just one second, let me start my video real quick. Hold on just one second. Can you see my screen now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I've got a slide pulled up here that says, what is a short range transit plan? For those folks that don't know what a short range transit plan is, a short range transit plan is a document that plans out transit services and operations for a 5 to 10-year planning period. So the current SRTP that SAC-RT has right now It is coming up on an expiration date. The last SRTP was done back in 12, and it was done for a 10-year period. So it will be expiring in 2022. So that is why we are now updating the next plan. However, we'll be doing the next plan for a 5-year period. So the next SRTP will be covering FY 2022 to 6. And we are calling that plan document SAC-RT on the Move. So the SRTP document will be called SAC-RT on the Move. It is kind of like a follow-up document to SAC-RT Forward, which most of you might be familiar with, was the bus network redesign that we did. Today actually marks the 2-year anniversary of SAC-RT Forward. It was 2 years ago that we implemented the big effort of our bus network redesign. Since that effort, there have been many changes across the Sacramento region, and with all of those changes, in addition to the current SRTP expiring, now is the appropriate time for us to update the SRTP. SAC-RT on the Move, we have, over the last several months, we've started looking at the existing SRTP and making updates to the existing framework. And that document is going to be updated. We're looking at our transit services and operations, and we're assessing the following things like the transit system, our fleet needs, capital, operating cost and revenues. And we're also looking at new and future transit services and projects, and what our future services, what future services might look like over the next 5 years. Okay, so why is SAC-RT doing an SRTP? There are several reasons, and like I've mentioned, now is a good time for SAC-RT to do the SRTP. One, because the existing plan is coming up on an expiration, and also because there have been so many changes in the last 10 years, and transit services and transit ridership has changed so much, and travel patterns have changed so much with COVID, that we really do need to take a look at transit services and operations and plan for the next 5 years and how we need to make meaningful changes to service and operations and how we want to do that. SRTPs are also a requirement from the Federal Transit Administration. We're required as a transit agency that receives direct federal funds that we are required to have an SRTP. And we are also required to provide a current SRTP to SACOG as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. So over the last several months, SAC-RT Planning has completed several tasks in updating the SRTP. We have worked with our marketing department to develop an outreach plan. Updating an SRTP, marketing and community involvement is a very, very important part of developing a very meaningful short-range transit plan. And so we've been working very closely with our marketing department to make sure that our outreach plan is covering everything. And we need to make sure that we get all of the community involved. We have a webpage dedicated to the short-range transit plan, and that was published in July. So that has been up on our website for the last several months. We have been meeting with our partners and the local jurisdictions. We've met with the cities of Citrus Heights and Elk Grove and Folsom and Rancho Cordova to meet with those folks and decide and talk about, things that we need to make sure we're focusing on, and just to make sure that the SRTP is including everything that we need to make sure that we need to focus on in the next 5 years for service. So a big part of the SRTP that we're moving forward with right now is a service plan, a 5-year service plan for future service development. The planning department has been meeting internally with other departments within SAC-RT, the scheduling folks, the facilities folks, and marketing folks. And we have come up with a potential list of service improvements for the next 5 years. We are finalizing that list right now. And once that information is finalized, we will have it ready to take out to the community for to kick off our community involvement, so we can start sharing that information with the public and start getting some good feedback from the community on that. So that takes me to my last slide with what are the tasks that are remaining with our SRTP update. So next steps really for the remainder of the calendar year is going to be heavily involved with community involvement. We have some more marketing deliverables to do and to take out to the community. We've got some virtual open houses that we are planning to schedule here in the next month or two. And some other, we have to be a little creative with the community events because things are still kind of virtual. Not many folks are getting back to the in-person meetings at this point. So I think we're still going to try and do as many virtual events as we can. But I think we can still get a pretty good turnout. A lot of our community involvement and our workshop type meetings have been virtual over the last 2 years, and they've worked out pretty well. So I anticipate us still being able to get some pretty good feedback on the SRTP by doing it that way. So we are planning to schedule some open houses over October, possibly November. And like I said, we will have a draft service plan for the next 5 years. We should have a draft copy of that ready to share with the public. And that will be ready when we are able to share that at virtual open houses. And once we get some dates on the schedule, we'll have that information posted, and we'll start sharing that information as soon as we get that on the schedule. Once we are able to get some feedback on that, we will be in a position to kind of analyze some of the comments and the feedback that we're getting from the public, and then we'll be able to draft a final plan. And we're looking at having a public comment period in the winter, January of 2022, and looking at tentatively having the final SRTP adopted by the board in the spring of 2022. So that is the timeline that we're looking at right now. And like I said, our next big kickoff will be the community involvement piece. So that is what we're working towards right now. So more information on that will be coming soon, but I just wanted to take an opportunity to share the effort, the short range transit plan with you all, and just let everybody know that it's happening, and we'll be sharing more updates as we move through the project.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'd love to get you hooked up with our neighborhood associations.
Oh, yes.
So I think we've done that in the past, and that'd be great. Some meet virtually and in person. So I'll get in touch with you offline.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments for Sarah?
No, just appreciate the report. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Great report.
Anytime.
And with that, we're going to move on to the next item.
The next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
Okay, where to start? Let's go right to left. Councilmember Schaefer?
Okay, so I had a very interesting meeting. I was appointed by this board to the Sacramento Homeless Policy Council. We had our first meeting on the 27th. It was really a great opportunity to meet all the stakeholders around the region. This is covering Sacramento County, Folsom, Elk Grove, the city of Sacramento, of course, Citrus Heights, and all of the players involved. And I thought it was a great discussion. We all kind of are sort of in the mode of understanding the problem much better. And then we'll meet again later this year to really sort of dive in and see what we can do to reduce homelessness. I think we all recognize that part of the biggest, one of the biggest challenges we have is, and one of the ones we should be focused on, is preventing people from becoming homeless in the first place. So it's much harder to deal with a homeless person after they're already on the streets. And so if we can prevent them from hitting the streets, then I think that's a really worthwhile effort. So I look forward to having more discussions on that. On September 2nd, I also sit on the Sac Metro Cable Television Commission. We just kind of, in that meeting, just kind of did some housekeeping, approved the employee handbook and that sort of thing. So there really wasn't anything super remarkable to report out of that. So with that, it's great to see as I go to my favorite restaurant in town, Crepes and Burgers. It's delightful to see how busy they are. There is really a tremendous amount of folks that are coming back into the community and really enjoying the local eateries that we have here. And I just want to encourage everyone to keep doing that, because that we have to resume some kind of sense of normalcy. So I encourage everyone to do that. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you. I just sent you down to cover one meeting, you come back a member? Thank you. I didn't know that was going to happen, honestly. Councilmember Bruins.
Thank you. At our last Regional Sanitation Board meeting, we just took care of some normal updates on some business that is ongoing. But it was a big meeting because we said goodbye to our district engineer, Prabhakar Samavarapu, who has had over 25 years with the Regional San and spearheaded the big project that we're working on and have been working on, which is the upgrade of the sanitation treatment plant. And then we also said hello to his replacement, which is Christoph Dobson, who's been in the Regional San for many, many years as well. I've known him for a long time. I think I first met him back in my Chamber of Commerce days. So he's well suited to be Prabhakar's replacement, and that counts the 5th district engineer that I have served under as a board member. On the 2nd of September, it was a pretty emotional day for me. Said goodbye to 2 people that I love. One was Kathy Cook, who has become a longtime friend of mine. She and her husband, Bill, created and continue to manage the Citrus Heights Community Marching Band, who I think anybody who's lived in Citrus Heights for any period of time knows of the marching band. It's an all-volunteer band of about 120 people of all ages that has just become a great ambassador for Citrus Heights. And Kathy stood strong for several years battling cancer, and her memorial was on the 2nd. So that was how I started the day. And then that afternoon, said goodbye to Chief Ron Lawrence. And so he's another person that I've grown to love and respect over the 5 years that he's been here. And I watched his swearing-in ceremony in Costa Mesa, and it just seemed like he was in the wrong place. But the good news is that opens up an opportunity for someone else to become our new chief, and we will be learning who that is very shortly. On the 8th, we had the PAL board meeting. I'm just so proud of our PAL board led by Lieutenant Chris Fry. He's a remarkable man, and has every leadership we've had has been just better than the ones before. So in the middle of COVID, he's kept the programs going for our kids in the community. And this month, on the 18th, our PAL kids are going to a River Cats game with thanks to Supervisor Sue Frost for donating the tickets. If you have a child who would enjoy that, I think there are some tickets available still if you go on the PAL's website. Then the following week, we're taking kids to the Capitol Air Show always a favorite, celebrating the fact that they're back after a hiatus last year. And it just keeps getting better. In October, PAL is bringing back Trunk or Treat, which was a huge hit last year. Basically, it's a reverse Trunk or Treat, where it was a drive-through event where different departments within the police department had stations and gave out candy in baskets with long handles so that they could keep their distance from the cars. Over 2,000 people drove through that last year, most of which were, kids with their parents. And it was so successful that they had planned it for a couple of hours, and they had to extend it an hour because the cars just kept coming and kept coming. So this year, it's going to be on October 28th from 4 to 8 p.m., a 4-hour event. We are partnering with Dignity Health so that they can expand the parking, the structures, more cars can get into the parking lot. And also expanding it to the community, seeking business, nonprofits, and other organizations who want to sponsor and have a spot there. There's no money required, but if you would like to be a station, decorate your car or your vehicle or a tent or whatever, dress up and feed candy, sugar up the kids of our community, there's an opportunity to do that on the PAL's website. There's a sign-up sheet. And then again in December, PAL is bringing back Miracle on Fountain Square Drive on the 10th, which is another drive-through experience, which was also highly attended last year. And then looking into next year, on February the 18th, back in the community center, which I'm delighted to announce is open again, PAL is going to host their second cornhole fundraiser. And the first one was that we did was in 2020, last year. I think it was the last event at the community center before everything shut down. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of fun, very successful. And this year we are being sponsored by the Citrus Heights Chamber of Commerce, who's partnering with it to make it an even bigger and better event. And that's all I have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Now I'll go to my left, Councilmember Daniels.
Thank you very much. Tonight, when we finish up, I'd like to ask that we recess in honor of United States Marine Sergeant Nicole Gee of Roseville, and I hope I'm saying her name right. I haven't heard it pronounced, but I hope I'm saying it correct. She was killed in action on August 26th in Afghanistan, and she will return home next Thursday, September 16th at 12:45 at the airport, and then a procession, I would imagine, an escorted procession will come through Citrus Heights, down Greenback Lane, to Mount Vernon Memorial Park at 8201 at Greenback, and go out and show your love. That's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Middleton.
Nothing exciting to report. Jeannie, Steve, and I all attended some of the same events, so very emotional saying goodbye to our chief, Ron Lawrence. He's very well missed. My son attended the event, and he didn't really understand what was going on. He just thought we were having a nice party, and then broke down in tears when he found out our chief was leaving.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so we'll find out soon who our new chief will be. We had our Policy and Innovation Committee meeting with SACOG. It was very interesting. We haven't really determined what our bills that we're going to be supporting or opposing are going to be. Legislative session is coming to an end shortly, so I would suppose that here in a bit we will have some solutions.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Well, Brett, I promised Jim Monteith I'd bring up that procession. You took care of it, so thank you. I did want to report on the Citrus Heights Connect Coalition. We had our first orientation on August 24th. It was virtual. And we went through the purpose of the coalition, and I'd really, instead of just going on about it, we do have a dedicated webpage on the city's website. Go in the search and just type Citrus Heights Connect, and it'll bring you up to the correct page. But I did want to say that this is a direction from the City Council from our strategic plan, and the goal was to enhance community vibrancy and engagement, and we created a task for staff to create this coalition, which would foster a strong sense of community in Citrus Heights share resources and build connections between all the different people and groups, nonprofit, volunteer, all that stuff. Plan ways for the community to come together and leverage city communications channel to build awareness of existing events and news. And so they surveyed, and I think one of the biggest thing was coordinating our calendar between major events throughout the year. The last thing you want to do is have two major fundraisers on the same night. So that's just an example, but there's just a lot more detail with frequently asked questions. You can sign up and join if you belong to a nonprofit, you're involved in the community. Heck, if you're just, educating your kids at home and want to get, more information, get connected with other groups. And it's a great way. One of the things that I really wanted promoted is our service clubs, working with a lot of our youth organizations. And it's just about introducing people to each other to get these things done. And the example I had was, we had the Red, White, and Blue Parade. And way before we were a city, that started out as all volunteer. In fact, Kathy Cook, I think, was responsible for putting that together. And slowly but surely, we're losing some of these matriarchs to our city. I mean, she was a mom to her family, a mom to the band, and really a mom to the city. And so really, I think the effort and the council came up with this task was to reconnect everybody, especially as we come out of this COVID and start re-engaging. So we've got the Little League teams there. We've got the schools involved. We've really got a good list, and if you can think of anybody to sign up and join this group, please direct them to our city's website. There's a button there to sign up and join. And let's see, I think that's all I have. Oh, I did want to, just briefly, on the city manager, we saw, I think the council members saw the recruitment parameters, and the consultant, the search company wanted comments back from council members. That should be wrapped up, and I think about, so that'll go out and be published soon to advertise for a new city manager, and I think the closing will be sometime mid-October, so that's the latest news I have on that. And with that, on to the next item, please.
The next item is public comment, and members of the public may address the council on any agenda item of interest to the public and within the council's purview, or on any agenda item before or during the council's consideration of the item. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. If you wish to address the council during the meeting, please complete a speaker identification sheet and give it to myself. If participating via Zoom, use the raise hand function or *9 from a telephone to indicate your desire to speak. When your name is called, the city clerk will allow you to unmute your microphone.
Thank you. And first I'll take speakers in person here, and I have a speaker card from Bridget Duffy, and then we'll go to any online comments.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
my name is Bridget Duffy. I'm from Citrus Heights. I'm here, I'm concerned about democracy in the United States right now. It's been, I think, a slow train coming, but I think what we're seeing right now, especially, is a violation, a real violation of a lot of people's civil rights. And we're talking about the right to work, the right to go to a store, buy food. And I think that as a city, and this has been my dream, my hope for many years now, is to see cities, local cities, start to beef up their democracy, basically. We don't really have a free press. I mean, I can bring, and I would love to do a presentation to the city council on all the things I'm going to mention, because I have lots of statistics and lots of court cases with real discovery and whatnot that I can show you, that most of the media currently is privately owned by people with motivations to keep us from knowing what's going on and being involved with what's going on. So I would love to see the city of Citrus Heights work on possibly converting the high school newspapers into something that more of the public is involved in so that we can, I like to come to city, I haven't done this in a long time, but I like to come to city council meetings and listen to what's going on and put it in a nice form of cartoon so that the public knows what the city's doing. And, you know, the things that you're doing are things that people should know about. They should know about the transit situation. They should know about the sanitation changes. They should know that there's a job opening for the city manager. The city manager is the most powerful position in the city. And having a city manager who is on board with more democracy and less censorship, with more, civil rights being stood up for rather than taken away, this would be a major step for our city. And I believe any city that takes it upon themselves to take serious look at how our democracy itself is working is going to be a leader for the rest of the country. Our country is at a turning point. Do we have democracy? Do our elected officials actually represent the people? These are things that we are entitled to as Americans. And it's absolutely possible to attain this as a people, as a majority of people. And it doesn't mean that anybody gets put out of the loop. You know, a lot of times people look at democracy like, oh, I'm not going to be able to make my money, or blah, 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 blah. Good example is people's assemblies. The city of Citrus Heights could say, okay, rather than spend millions of dollars on consultants, we're going to have a people's assembly that's going to be the R&D program. Anyway, that's basically my tune, and I'm going to hopefully play that tune a little bit more and get some support. And, you know, I hope together that we can really take our democracy seriously. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. Okay, do we have any hands raised on our virtual?
I do not.
Okay, well, and if you can always raise a hand when an item comes up if you want to comment on it. Other than that, we'll move on. And next we have the consent calendar.
Yes, consent calendar items 7, 8, 9, and 10.
And I just need to recuse myself from voting on item 10 due to a conflict of interest.
It's proximity, right? I think we need to state
Oh, yes,
what it is.
I'm within 500 feet of the project, and so that's a automatic conflict of interest for me to vote on that. So other than that, I'm good.
Okay, anything else?
Want to poll number 10, please?
Number 10, unfortunately, I think if we pull it, you have to leave the room. If it was stayed on consent.
Are you pulling it?
Yeah.
Sorry. Gee.
And that's okay.
No, I'm fine. I do have to leave the room.
Anything?
Want to vote on the other part first, though?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
let's do that.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
So I'd like to move approval of items 1 through 9.
7 through 9.
7 through 9, is that what I heard?
Yes.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And I didn't even stop, we did get a second on that, right?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't acknowledge the motion in the second. Okay, can you please read the next item?
Next item, item 10, the subject is the Arcade Cripple Creek Trail Project, and the recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute amendment number 5 to the contract for professional services with GHD for the Arcade Cripple Creek Trail Project.
Okay,
So all I'm looking for, Mayor, is just a very short Reader's Digest version of why we have to have this amendment, what caused it, and how it's being funded.
okay, and
It's just, I'm doing that mainly because it's been an ongoing, very large project.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure people understand what's going on with it and why it happened and that basis, basically.
okay, let me ask our city engineer to, if Leslie could address that.
Yes, thanks, Mayor, Council. The purpose of the amendment before you tonight is to add additional right-of-way services to the project. We found out recently from Caltrans that we do need easements from our project partners. And so we are working with them now, but we have additional consulting services that are necessary to put together the paperwork required to secure the rights to install the trail within the parks and our other project partners. In addition, there's some additional design work that's necessary. We've really been working hard to fine tune the design, including minimizing impacts to trees and incorporating significant comments from our project partners as well. And so this amendment will help us incorporate those into the plans and get it ready to release to the public for viewing.
And then on the funding side, how is that being handled?
I'm sorry, yes, the funding is coming from Measure A PED safety funds to cover this specific amendment.
Okay. And then, Leslie, the final thing is, there was concern over the word final being used in some of this paperwork, I think. And I just want to clarify, there's still time that this will still come back and still has a process to it, correct? We're not going to drop a document that basically says, that's it, we're done at some point. This still has time for massaging, correct?
Correct. We are working to get it to the very close to final stage as best as we can. We do plan to release it to the public for public comment, at which point we will incorporate and respond to those and create the documents that we'll then put out to bid. And then we'll come back after construction bidders have submitted prices for the award of the construction contract as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate the clarification. And with that, I'd entertain a motion.
Oh, I'll move to approve item 10.
Second?
Motion by Schaefer, second by Middleton. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So that's 4-0 with a recusal from Councilmember Bruins. Yeah, there's a little delay in the video feed, so we're not quite done yet in the other room. All right. And with that, if you'd announce the next item, please.
The next item is public hearing, item number 11. The subject is the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant funding. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution accepting the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant funds in accordance with state requirements.
Thank you, Amy. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and members of the council. My name is Chris Fry. I'm the Investigations Lieutenant with the Special Services Division here at the Police Department. This evening, it is my privilege to speak with you about grant funding that was awarded to the Citrus Heights Police Department from the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, otherwise known as the JAG grant. Each year, the Bureau of Justice Assistance partners with the Bureau of Justice Statistics to allocate funding for each state and territory. The state distribution is based on a territory's violent crime and population size. The state's awarded amount is divided between the state and local governments at a rate of 60% and 40% respectively. Under this program, cities and counties receive federal funds to augment public safety expenditures. This is a non-competitive grant program. There is no guarantee for funding or minimum allocations, and the funds must be used for law enforcement activities to include equipment. During the application phase, the police department was asked to identify what the funding would be used for. The police department applied for funding for this grant based on the need to purchase ballistic shields for the department. This grant also requires that a minimum of 3% be applied for compliance with the federal requirement of the National Incident-Based Reporting System, otherwise known as NIBRS. NIBRS will be an updated and uniform way for law enforcement agencies around the country to submit crime data and will replace the current crime reporting practice of the Uniform Crime Reporting, otherwise known as the UCR. The police department is requesting to utilize the funds from the JAG grant to support the department's equipment and training initiatives. This request will support our goal to provide exceptional police services to the community and enhance officer safety. By accepting and using the grant funds in this manner, the police department will purchase the ballistic shields and utilize funds for the staff to attend training on NIBRS. The fiscal year 2020 funds must be expended by September 30th of 2022. The police department is recommending the council to adopt a resolution accepting the recommended expenditures for the 2021 JAG grant in the amount of $24,698 in compliance with state requirements. At this time, I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Lieutenant Fry. And any questions, then I'll go open the public hearing and then we could have discussion. No questions, so I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anybody here or online that wishes to address this item?
I do not have any speaker cards or raised hands.
Okay, well, with that, I'll close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Daniels, seconded by Schaefer. All those in favor? Aye. Votes unanimous, the item carries. Next item, please. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Lieutenant.
The next item is regular calendar, item number 12. The subject is amendment to Chapter 54, Article 5, Division 3 of the Citrus Heights Municipal Code regarding tobacco products. The recommendation is to introduce for a first reading and waive the reading of the entire ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 54, Article 5, Division 3 of the Citrus Heights Municipal Code regarding the sale of tobacco products.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and members of the council. My name is Officer Brittany Soriano. I'm currently assigned as the State Grant Officer. In July of 2020, the police department received a grant from the California Department of Public Health for Stopping Tobacco Access to Kids enforcement. While working on the grant objectives, I reviewed the city's tobacco-related municipal codes and learned that the current municipal codes are out of compliance with state and federal law. My objective is to update the city's municipal code as it pertains to tobacco use, sales, possession, and regulation within the city, changing the existing municipal code, bringing it into compliance with recent changes in state and federal laws, specifically to age 21. The legal age for purchasing, possessing, or using tobacco products was raised to age 21 in May of 2016 and federally in December of 2019, which was effective immediately. At this time, I would like to make a recommendation to move to introduce for a first reading the amended ordinance and waive the reading of the entire ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Citrus Heights amending Chapter 54, Article 5, Division 3 of the Citrus Heights Municipal Code regarding the sale of tobacco products.
Thank you, Officer Soriano. You actually read our municipal code? Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a nice catch. Any questions or comments? I think this one's pretty simple. And I honestly didn't know it went to age 21. What was ours, 18?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, there's a number of things. So there's no questions or comments. I'd entertain a motion.
Move to adopt.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Schaefer, second by Vice Mayor Middleton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good catch. All right, next item, please.
Next item is regular calendar, item number 13. The subject is request to execute a contract with Lens Lock for body-worn camera systems. And the recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract to purchase or lease body-worn camera systems with Lens Lock.
Mayor, members of council, Alex Turcotte, I'm a commander for our Special Services Division at the Police Department. Joining me tonight is Tiffany Campbell. She's one of our project managers for this particular project, as well as Sean O'Grady and Wes Kipley from Lens Lock Incorporated. As many of you are aware, body-worn cameras have long been a useful tool in law enforcement. Studies have shown that use of body-worn cameras provides an objective, unbiased viewpoint of an interaction between police and the community. Many jurisdictions, this has proven to be very helpful, not only in increasing trust and transparency, but also increasing the ability to prosecute and get to the bottom of incidents out in the community. We have looked at body-worn cameras over the years, and unfortunately, up until recently, these programs have been cost prohibitive, but now there are many vendors out there that have reorganized the structure, and I'm happy to say that the technology has caught up and the price point has caught up, that now these are more accessible to medium-sized agencies. In the past, really the burden has not been so much the hardware, but the back-end administrative support as far as how to keep evidence, process requests, and release items. I'm happy to say that the technology has caught up with us, and it's now a viable option for municipalities of our size, and many of our regional partners are also going to it. Now I'll turn it over to Tiffany Campbell. She'll take you through our RFP process and introduce you to our selected vendor. Tiffany?
Thank you, Commander Turcotte. Good evening, Mayor Miller and members of the council. Thanks for the introduction. I am Tiffany Campbell. I am the project manager for our body-worn camera project here at the police department. And tonight I'm here to provide council with an overview of this project and to highlight you on some of the requirements as it pertained to the RFP process. As noted in the staff report, during the past year, CHPD began researching body-worn camera technology, testing equipment, and analyzing storage and redaction capabilities. In an effort to assist the department formally in locating the most qualified and state-of-the-art body-worn camera system, the city and the police department published a request for proposal this past July. Some of the required highlights of the proposal required respondents to provide a minimum of 90 cameras, enabling the department to provide 1 camera to each sworn staff police member, and it required a 24-hour tech support and also an option for 24/7 outsourced redaction services. During this process, a selection committee was formed with city and PD staff who completed a comprehensive review of each of the 5 responses received, and they were evaluated extensively. 4 of the proposals received were either not as competitive, had reduced services, or lacked a pricing structure, and some did not meet the RFP requirements. As a result, the selection committee determined that Lenslock was the most qualified and cost-effective vendor, submitting a proposal that met the requirements of the RFP and the needs of the department. There will be no impact to the general fund, and the 5-year contract cost is not to exceed $570,000. During this process, 2 funding sources were identified. One is a grant and one is a credit. The grant funding is through the Citizens Option for Public Safety Grant. It's known as our COPS grant. And the credit funding is from a flexible spending credit provided by the city's general liability workers' compensation program. Tonight, staff is recommending that council adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract to purchase or lease body-worn camera systems with Lenslock Incorporated. I want to thank you for your time tonight and allowing me to share with you some of the process in which we've been through up to this point. And should the council have any technical questions, joining us on Zoom is Lenslock's Regional Manager, Sean O'Grady, and Director of Client Services, Wes Kipley. We're available should the council have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Campbell, and thank you, Commander Turcotte. Any questions for our team? Let's start now with Brett.
I have a question.
Just real quick, are there any other departments in the region that are using Lenslock?
Yes, absolutely. At this time, we're aware that Roseville Police Department is in process with Lenslock, as well as Rockland PD, and I believe Roseville is using this system as well.
Excellent. And then do we have an approximate deployment date if we go forward?
Yes, we're looking at the month of October, specifically. At this time, we're targeting in about a month from now, but that would be dependent on finalizing just some of the accessories that go along with the cameras themselves.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Tim?
So yes, I had a question regarding the hardware. Is the hardware that we have, I'm talking about the backup system, the cameras, does that have an expected life of more than 5 years?
Are you talking about the camera itself or the video in which it?
I'm talking about both.
Okay. I think I will refer to Sean O'Grady on that topic. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So included as part of our standard business model, there's an end-to-end hardware guarantee on everything. So if anything is damaged, anything gets scratched or breaks, or the battery life's failing on it, the police department's not going to be nickel and dime for additional body cameras or accessories or anything like that. Also, within the 5 years, we come in after the first 30 months and we upgrade the police department to brand new body-worn camera equipment so that they'll always have the latest and greatest technology that Lenslock has to offer.
Thank you.
Jeannie?
Thank you. I was reading through the contract when it got updated today, and so I'm a little, it looks like we added a component where we would own the cameras after the end of 5 years. So is this kind of a lease purchase type arrangement? Have we settled in on how we're going to do the financing on this?
I can jump in on some of that there. So we are working on some of the details. There are a number of options, but one of the reasons why this has been seen as a viable project now is kind of in layman's terms, so forgive me, Lenslock. This is more of a body worn camera as a service program. So we're able to actually field these cameras and be fully supported from the front end to the back end. So if it makes sense at the end of 5 years to purchase, we would have that option. If we wanted to continue the body worn camera service as is, we would have the option to continue forward at a similar cost.
Okay, thank you.
Portia.
Yes, so I'm excited about this. You know, there's this issue of transparency and accountability that we're always talking about in our communities, and this is a critical component of that. But as I'm looking through the proposal, I am most impressed with the scope of work, which, you know, unlimited data storage management, automatic replacement of the body-worn cameras at 30-month intervals, and that whole no questions, no damage, you know, broken, whatever, replaced within 72 hours. I mean, that's being very responsible and responsive to our officers and the need of our community. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd agree. This is really what's made it attainable for an agency our size, is that support in that system.
Yeah, I'm glad we're able to finally do this. Well, we have to vote on it still, but if it passes, I'm glad.
So I move approval of the request to execute a contract.
I second.
Motion by Bruin, seconded by Schaefer. All
Just
those,
a quick.
yeah, go ahead.
This also lends itself to a need for a policy on the release of video. And so I'd really like to see us get that back or have that discussion really quick before the cameras are deployed. Hopefully we can do that.
Yes, sir. So I could address that for you as well. We, over the last year, we've done a number of test and evaluates with different vendors, including Lenslock. And during that time, we had set some model policy around the issue and redaction and release of these items. So we should be pretty quickly able to turn that around. And obviously we have to do some conferring with our labor groups, but we should be able to turn that around well within the time period for deployment.
Thank you.
So there are no standards available? We have to come up with our own policy?
No, there are some industry standards and model policies.
Okay.
We just have
Got it. That's,
our particular jurisdiction.
Have to formalize, yeah.
yeah, thank you. All right, there was a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. That was unanimous. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item.
Oh, thank you, Commander. Thank you, Commander.
Next item is Department Reports, number 14. The subject is review and give direction on proposed resolutions to be presented at the 2021 League of California Cities Annual Conference. And with that, I'll turn over the presentation to Haley Reed.
Hi, Haley.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Haley Reed with the City Clerk's Office. The purpose of this presentation is to give the Council's voting delegate, Councilmember Schaefer, direction for the two conference resolutions coming before him at the League of California Cities Annual Conference Business Meeting on September 24th. I have prepared a few slides which will provide an overview of each resolution. The full detailed resolutions packet is available in your agenda packets. Just a reminder that this is not an action item, but rather an opportunity for discussion. So the first resolution is a call to pass legislation for fair and equitable distribution of the Bradley Burns 1% local sales tax from in-state online purchases. Cities traditionally receive 1 cent on every dollar of a sale made within a jurisdiction's boundaries. Allocation of the local tax from online sales is complex and largely based on place of sale, location of goods at the time of sale, and how the customer receives goods. Recent online retailers changed their ownership structure, which has resulted in in-sales tax from in-state sales to be entirely allocated to the city where the fulfillment center is located, as opposed to a county-wide pool. This resolution seeks equitable allocation of sales tax from in-state purchases based on data where the products are shipped to, and takes into consideration the impacts fulfillment centers have on host cities, but also provides a fair share to California cities that do not or cannot have a fulfillment center. And the second resolution is a call to provide necessary funding for the California Public Utilities Commission to fulfill its obligation to inspect railroad lines. Currently, railroad operators own nearly 6,000 miles of rail right-of-way throughout California. CPUC is the enforcing agency for railroad safety and maintenance. Many cities are seeing an increase in illegal dumping, graffiti, and homeless encampments near rail lines, and keep in mind this primarily affects already disadvantaged communities. This resolution calls on legislature to work with stakeholders to provide adequate authority and necessary funding to address these issues along rail lines. And with that, I will open it up for discussion.
Okay. Well, what does everybody think about these? Very similar on the first one with is what I was talking about when we talked about the transit occupancy tax, is getting the legislature to do something about this. And I think this would be rectifying the situation where we can't have a full fulfillment center would really help us.
Well, I think support of the first one would definitely be to the advantage of Citrus Heights.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think we have a concurrence there. Next one's not so clear. Now, so I was wondering what others thought about this. I think it's just to pay for enforcement of this. I know along the Capitol Corridor, very good jobs done by the private railroad. But then you get into the urban areas, and it's not so
Well,
good.
even Roseville Road across from Citrus,
Right.
across from Citrus Heights.
Oh, yeah, they're,
I actually read these resolutions, and this one is a little confusing to me. Tim, did you have any input on it?
I really didn't. I read it as well.
Councilmember Schaefer, if you could just turn on your microphone.
Yeah, I read it as well, and it wasn't very clear to me. I was hoping we could have the discussion tonight that would clarify that.
It sounds as though it wants to add teeth to having the Public Utilities Commission do its job, basically.
I think what it is that there's so little that's allocated to that enforcement angle. There's so few inspectors for so much, a tremendous amount of lines, I think they're looking to have that bumped up.
So the resolution, support of the resolution would basically support funding to tackle a problem.
Yeah, and then also I think to move funds, to have funds available to maybe pay back local entities that take the opportunity to come in and clean it up.
That's true. And basically, the source of those funding would be from the surplus that the state says they have.
and you made a good point, Jeannie, because I talk about to the right-of-way where the fence is, and the railroads have done a good job. It's the other side of the fence where it's happening.
Yeah, and apparently
That's a tough one.
So there's a question, is that still private property? Is that part of the right-of-way, that the railroad is responsible for? Or is that county property,
Yeah,
the county Sacramento's property?
that's always the
So-
tough part of figuring it out, but,
So it seems as though supporting this would be the right thing to do. As opposed
I
to,
concur.
as opposed to.
Yep.
It's not working now, so.
All right.
Does that help you, Sim?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And if some new information comes up and it doesn't seem right, you don't have to support it either.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that takes care of that. Thank you, Haley. Next item, please.
The next item is city manager items.
Nothing this evening. Thank you, council.
Okay, next item.
The next item is items requested by council members or any future agenda items.
Anything? All right. Well, thank you for reminding me. I would like to take a moment of silence for United States Marine Sergeant Nicole G. And before we adjourn. Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.